Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to talk about variables. So what are variables and why they are useful? Variables are useful because they help us store, manipulate and process data. Data is a very important part of our program. We have different type of data like integer, like numbers, digits, like we have textual data, like we have a single character data, we have data like floating point number. The floating point number are basically the decimal values. So the variables are used to store these type of data, and later on we can use those variable to process them, any kind of processing we want to do. So for different type of data, to hold different type of data, we use different type of variables. Variables are basically consist of two parts. What first is the data type part, and then we have the variable name. So this is basically what the variable is. It consists of a data type and then it has a variable name. So coming back to the data type, first of all, there are rules for naming the variable. It can be, the name can be anything, but there are some certain rules. It cannot start with a special character, it cannot start with any kind of number, and two variable must have a different name. For example, if I define two variables in our program, in my program, then those two variable names must be different. So first of all, if I like to store integer like a digit, then I have to use the integer type. So the keyword to store integer value is int. Then the variable name, like variable name for integer, I gave it like I. And if you want to store any kind of decimal value, then the data type for that is float. That would be var f. And then if I want to store any kind of single character, then the data type for that is character data type char. Basically this is, and then there is an other data type which is called bool, and this basically hold a single value. The value can be either true or false, 0 or 1. 0 mean false and the 1 mean true. So there are keywords as well like false and true. What I did here is just on to you. I'm coming back to this. First of all, I would like to explain what this int, float and character, how they behave in the memory, in the RAM. So integer, it basically hold integer type of data, digits without the decimal point. Like if I would like to assign 8.8, actual assign, I would like to do actual assigning. Like if I this statement is called the assigning. This statement is basically the declaration part, and then if I assign the value, any kind of assign value to this is called assigning the value at the declaration time. So basically this is the declaration. I'm coming back to this thing, why these things, how to use these things in the program. Basic idea was here that if I assign 8.8 here, like it was just telling you that its data type is like double. So integer value just store the number on without the decimal point. So whatever on the right side of the decimal point will not be considered in the part of the variable I, and the data just to the left side of the decimal will be just considered in it. The difference between floating point number and integer data type is of that decimal point. Floating point number can store data like 9.9. This basically, these two store occupies same kind of memory in the RAM. This also takes 4 bytes in the RAM, 4 bytes, and this also takes 4 bytes. So the memory occupation for these both, the difference is just of decimal point. We can store any kind of decimal value, the value with the point in it, we can store it into the variable. And then coming back to this chart, this can hold any kind of single character, and obviously it will take only 1 byte in the memory because it can store only one character. It cannot store anything greater than one character. So a character can be anything. You can just assign any kind of digit here. It will be the ASCII value effect. Uh, So then this, coming back to this thing, this can store any kind of value like false or true, 0 or 1, but nothing else than that. So why we have this declaration and why we have this assigning with the declaration? Suppose if you just want to get any kind of input from the keyboard. We have discussed in a previous video that we that what is C in and what is this, how is this right shift operator has been overloaded. C in the class object. The definition of the class has been defined in the IOStream header file. This operator, right shift operator, basically has been overloaded into this header file, and later on then the object of this the class and the object cin has been defined later on in this cin. If I just hover over it, then it will just telling me that this is cin. It's basically is the object of the class iStream, and it is using the scope of std. I have used the namespace std, that's why I don't have to define that std that I'm using the scope of std. I don't have to define that because I have just used the namespace std over there. So what this does, that it just takes an input from the keyboard. Scene will take any kind of keyboard input entered by the keyboard, and then write shift into that variable, and this will store that value. So integer value we can store like 30,000, and there was value like 678 or something. So we can store the value from negative uh, 32,000 to like positive 32,760. There was a value like something, but the value 3,000 32,000 is confirmed. So it can hold any kind of value in the range minus 32,000 to positive 33,000. Same as the value for the floating number. Character can store only characters as any kind of single character it can hold, and this can hold only true or false. So these are the primitive data types. There are other data types as well. We will define them later. There is a proper class implemented in the IO stream, and later on that the class object has been defined into this std that that is used to store any kind of textual data, and that data type is called string. We will have a video on this because the string is whole like a class, and then we have to define its variables. What are classes? And you are not familiar with the classes for now, that's why I'm not including the data type here. So basically this will input any kind of data entered by the keyboard into that variable, and then later on we can manipulate that into our program. So if I just would like to display it on the screen, I will use it like this. So if we just run our program 23, like I have just input the value 23, and then the handle part came, and then it got that value displayed on the I would like to compile it now. So for now it has been compiled successfully. So if I enter any kind of value um, from the keyboard, and then I press enter, then there is just handle part, and then we have this the value displayed over here. So I hope you got the basic understanding of what are the variables and how we use them in our program. So for now, goodbye.